Hmm. We're up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I
We
see it.
weren't. Yeah,
I
we
see
weren't
it.
officially up. We were chit chatting on our old one.
Okay. I see it.
Yeah. So,
Okay. All right, let's
so we
kick it.
good.
Let's
So
kick
let's
let's
kick it
kick it
off.
off. Let's start again.
Boom. We had good prep. It's an inside joke for everybody that's going to be chiming in right now, but we just talked for about 30 minutes to ourselves, maybe 20 minutes to ourselves. But all right, we're back for another Transformation Tuesday. This is week 4, team. And today we're talking about something that a lot of people do not really want to discuss and admit that affects their body, but it absolutely does. And if your life is stressful, I promise you, your body is going to show it. You cannot out train. You can't eat clean. You cannot do You could be doing everything right, but you're going to still feel stuck, right, Nene?
Yes, and understand everybody, the hormones play so much of a role between your hormones, stress, and sleep. They are not the thing that we should consider as side notes, with many of us do. We kind of push them to the side, and you think that you can either outwork them, but you can't. That level of chronic stress or chronic issues, you will not be able to outwork them, and you're going to see stalled results or no results.
So today we're breaking down stubborn fat and why most of it isn't training problem. It's a recovery problem, right, Nene?
Yes. Hold on, and I'm doing a little test. Did you see my
Yeah,
test and comment pop up?
yeah. I just seen
Okay.
that one right there.
Okay,
Private chat.
perfect.
Yeah, we're
All
good.
right.
We're good.
So I'm going to share this example again, maybe even a little bit faster, y'all. If you didn't know, Troy and I
Yeah.
literally we're 20 minutes in and like, wait, nobody can see us. Okay, so we're starting over. We're starting over. But in this same topic, I have a client who
We'll see
was a
you,
client
bro.
of mine for maybe a year and a half ago who crushed it. And she reached out to me a few weeks ago because she said, hey, Nisha, I'm really struggling and I've just gained, 15, 20 pounds and I don't know what to do. But in talking with her, here's what's really going on. Her father passed away middle of last year and it was very unexpected. So grief, stress of that situation is really what started to catapult this weight gain. But on top of that, understand once she realized that she was starting to gain weight, what do you think she did? She started to exercise even more. And
Hmm.
then she started to eat even less. And when I asked her one very important question, how are you doing with your sleep? Sleep is awful. Why? Because she has dreams. And so the most important thing is we have to address her sleep pattern. She can't keep trying to outwork and undereat the level of stress, because all you're going to do is continue to put on pounds because your body has become so much more sensitive. Your sleep is the thing where we get the right recovery. And when that system is off, there are other things that are going to be off as well.
Like what? Would you consider your stress, your cortisol levels being elevated or anything like that? We
Absolutely.
hear everything about cortisol, so let's break it down. We broke it, let's break down cortisol and how that kind of goes hand in hand with what we're talking about.
Absolutely. And everybody listening, we hear so much about it with respect to women, but know that men experience it too. It just looks different. But for ladies, you're usually going to see all of a sudden pretty significant weight gain if cortisol stays really high. But understand that cortisol is supposed to peak up and down. These are the things that help you thrive in everyday life. It helps you have the performance of a lifetime. It helps you play a sport. It helps you have that presentation that you need to give in front of an audience. It's going to spike and then it comes back down. But when it's chronically elevated due to stress and poor sleep, your body becomes very sensitive. You're going to see resting metabolic rate go low. And if it's super low, then it means you can't out exercise and you can't undereat that because you're already too low, right? There's no more deficit. So you're going to see that happen. You're going to see people get very sensitive to carbohydrates. When we talked about last week,
Mhm.
somewhat of insulin sensitivity. You can see that go awry when someone isn't sleeping and the cortisol levels are always up. You'll also see the inability to digest and oxidize what we call oxidized fat. So it means that you can see cholesterol bumps, but you can also see body fat or body composition changes, all because we didn't go to sleep.
Because we didn't go to sleep. So we're going to have what they
Yeah.
consider to be chronic cholesterol or cortisol, and those
Mm-hmm.
spikes, like you said, they're just going to elevate stress levels, add on all of those different factors. You're going to have the water retention. So then the weight isn't shifting off, right? And then we get frustrated. Once we're frustrated and unhappy, what do we tend to do, Nene? In your
Yeah.
space, what do you see people do?
And that's when they try to diet down even more, right? And so we're already in this situation where we don't need any more diet. You didn't need any more diet. That's where we may need to do things that help support you a little bit better. But usually people will then try to eat less and less. But you must understand your body is already compromised. And it doesn't mean we need to bump calories so high, but it does mean you don't need to go any lower because you're already at the low of the low for you. So you're going to start to see even more issues that you compound. When we're already cortisol high, stress is high, you aren't sleeping, and then you're going to go turn around and say, I'm going to eat less and less. Now we're affecting brain function, organ function. You're slowing down even more, which exacerbates your problem. So you're still going to see weight gain continue to trickle up because now you don't have any juice. You don't have no more output. You
Mhm.
can't you can't even train well at that point because you don't have enough energy to put out.
And your insulin sensitivity and all your
It's so
receptors,
high.
like, it's off, and then your muscles won't be able to receive the nutrients, so they're not going to ever get the shape or the density that you're looking for. You can't accumulate more muscle fibers, so the density that you can't get is there. But and within that, the metabolic rate isn't going to be high because we need more muscle to have an increased metabolic rate. And I don't know if people understand how your metabolic rate is formed, but your muscles create warmth, and that is going to help with the thermogenesis, is going to help break down the calories within your body that you're ingesting. And if you don't have a high muscle density, then your metabolic rate is going to tend to be at a lower rate. Hence why women naturally have a lower metabolic rate 9 times out of 10, because of the lean muscle tissue that they don't have as equipped as men in natural settings. Women can work towards it. I'm not saying that every man has more than a woman, but in the natural or the most obvious situation, that a man is going to have a higher metabolism rate.
Mm-hmm.
So just because of the muscle density. So just
Yep.
know that the muscle tissue will increase the metabolic performance that your body has. So we need to do these weight training. We need to eat. So one of the massive points with sleep control is what Nietzsche was talking about. But then the second one that we're going to discuss is just the under eating, and it increases stress levels, right? Your body can't handle this, knee. And
Yep.
like I said, they either go one way or the other. They either get frustrated, right? And then they gravitate towards eating the, what do you call it? The ice cream and stuff is the compassionate food for yourself, or the nice food for yourself, but it ends up hurting you. And or you feel like you need to restrict things and you undereat. So now your body is working hard and not getting the nutrients in order to evolve and grow, right?
Absolutely. And I'm going to bring you guys back to this same example. This particular woman who I'm talking about, we were doing really good over the last 2 weeks, but she had a very stressful weekend. And she works on the weekend and she works in healthcare and she works in a very sensitive unit. Well, the issue is what? She got really stressed and it pushed her toward some high sugary items. So then she sent me a message and said, you know what, Nitra? You asked me about this sleep and you talked to me about, hey, how does stress show up for me? And she was like, this weekend was very eye opening because I had a very stressful client patient load and some things really went wrong. She had a patient on her unit who died. And this is real life. And why I'm sharing it, these are real life. These are real people working every day. She had a patient who passed away. And in that scenario, it bothered her so much. So, my message to her was around we have to look at how you carry stress throughout the day and how you even review, or what is your perspective on death when you work in an environment where you probably are going to see people die. And so we had to
Hmm.
really go through that and look at what are those things that we need in her bag. How do we translate that to what the exercise needed to look like leading into her shifts or out of them? What type of snacks? What food is she going to have on the day that something like that happens so it doesn't push her over the top? Because remember, we already said when someone is already in a situation where cortisol levels are very high, while you become more sensitive, right, to carbohydrates, the other part is your cravings have also boosted. So, again, another double whammy while you can all of a sudden see weight gain that feels like it happened overnight. Y'all know when you people say, I feel like I gained 15 pounds in the last like 2 weeks. You may have on a scale, but it doesn't mean you gain 50 pounds of fat. But these are the ways that can happen because you got water retention, you've got increased inflammation, all because of the choices and the stress and the no sleep. All these things just compound over time because you become so sensitive. Then your metabolic rate is low. And everybody, don't confuse when you heard Troy talking about metabolic rate, don't confuse that with metabolism. Those are two very different things. One is about how your body works through and digests food and the speed at which your body digests food. Metabolic rate is about what's happening with your output and energy and how you use things. Those are two different things. So sometimes you guys think, well, my metabolism is slow. No, you're still digesting food. You're still doing all that. That's not an issue. Most people, I think, if you guys are watching from last week, digestion and metabolism shifts don't really happen until people are 60. But resting metabolic rate is happening in flux no matter what your age is around activity, stress, sleep, and how much muscle you have. So, one of the best ways to fix some of these issues is the more you lift weights and the more that you have more steadier cardio that works for you, the person, and not trying to overdo it. And do not misquote me, anybody. Don't say, hey, this lady said today we're not supposed to have intense cardio. No, we're talking about people who are already in very stressful situations and not
Steady state
sleeping.
cardio is good for anybody anyway, though.
Anybody.
So it's
But
not even
and
like
I'm
I'll
and I'm
stick to that
saying
one.
it, I'm saying it because there's so many conflicting pieces for women in this age range who may be hearing, don't do intense cardio. That is so individual. So do not mistake me when I'm saying pull back. We're talking about people who are in very high stress situations who are not sleeping,
Hmm.
right? What we're trying to do is calm you down. So some of that intensity in cardio is not as helpful
It's
to
a
you.
double inflammation situation,
Yes,
you
is
know.
not helpful to
The
you
intensity is going to increase cortisol spikes, and if you're someone who's
who's
chronically
already
at a high
there,
cortisol level, then you never get to come back down. So yes, you need something that's going to taper
pull
you
you
off and
down.
just be and give you a variance, you know.
Yep.
So yeah, that might not be best for you at that time, but that's not to say your age is the defining
Yeah.
matter. It's your activity rate, it's how your body's process, it's so many other things other than just age, you know. It's
Yep.
your day to day that I feel like is going to be the thing for that. Um, we have it's dope that we have so many clients that we share together. Um, we have somebody right now. I don't. They're like, man, I've eaten clean the last 2 weeks, you know, and now they're stressed out because they're not seeing what they believe to have thought that they were supposed to see at this time. And I'm like, well, one, that's not what this journey's about. It's about building a system that's consistent so that over time you'll always be able to know you will be trending this way. You're not going to be going this way. It's a healthier habit. And I promise you that you cannot have all of these habits piecing together and go a bad direction. um, but how do you deal? Because you deal with that, I think, a little more than me, with someone expecting to see a result based on the weightlifting. They can they'll be like, "Well, my arms are firmer," but like when that scale don't move, people be, whoo, you
Yeah.
know.
They
So
get,
I ate good all week, and by day
listen,
6, I feel like I should have lost 82 pounds.
listen. And so this is where it gets tricky. So for everybody listening, understand this. And this is why the journey is always so specific to a person, and it is not a one size fit all, and you're going to see different people get different results in different amounts of time because the starting points are different. So for many clients, let's say somebody like Troy may be talking about, if they're already really inflamed and there's somebody who we're really working on, let's get a new routine. Your sleep isn't good. Plus, you've been eating inconsistently, but all of a sudden you ate really well for 2 weeks. That does not shut off all this inflammatory response that your body had because you decided for 2 weeks we're going to do it very well. What that's doing is it's allowing us to kind of reset you. So the things that you want to be able to pay attention to is, hey, how did you feel these last 2 weeks? You know what? I felt really good. I didn't have any bloating. My stomach wasn't upset. You know, my ankles weren't swollen. My fingers didn't swell up this particular week. I actually was able to sleep a little bit better. Those are the things that you want to be able to assess because everything is not going to hit the scale when you're talking about somebody is so far off from where we need to be. And just because you did something for 2 weeks, you feel like you're supposed to see it. No, that's not how this works. Now, for many people, that is can be something, but you have to understand everybody's starting point is different on how far off you are with inflammatory responses or the insulin sensitivities or carbohydrate sensitivities. How much body fat do you personally have? How low is your resting metabolic rate? Right. And so that's why you can't compare. Some people who are slightly fitter individuals, and by fitter, I'm going to say their body composition is starting point better. Okay. You're going to see sometimes they move through things better because their body performed more efficiently in the first place. They
Hmm.
have more muscle on their body that's reacting to what we're doing. When you don't, it takes a little bit longer, more cardio. And understand this, you are still going to have to be in a deficit. So sometimes when people say, well, I'm not losing weight, a deficit is based on the person, and that's why there's no hard and fast rule for how many calories somebody should have. We really do need to have a starting point, and you do it for 2 weeks or so to see if your body's moving, and if it doesn't, then you lower it per day by maybe like 200 calories a day, a little bit more than where you were, to make sure that we get what we want for the whole week. But we have to inch you there if we don't see it. But at the end of the day, weight loss is still eating in a deficit. And if you aren't losing weight, it may mean that you're not in a deficit, number one, or your resting metabolic rate is still so low, which is why when we talk about increasing activity, it's not about eat less, move more. It literally is because your resting metabolic rate is so low. We have
Hmm.
to start to do things to move it and increase it, which is why we always want people to lift weights at the same time so we can improve your resting metabolic rate right out of the gate.
So let me ask you this, right? How do you handle somebody that is drastically overweight, right? Obese. Um, let's say 50 to 70% body fat, and they're trying to have a massive weight loss. So they're going to be in a caloric deficit. But now let's compound that on with they're stressed out about their job. They're already stressed about their body. How do you navigate through the already needing to undereat? Like we said, we need to be in somewhat, not to say that being in a caloric deficit is necessarily completely under eating because that's a controlled environment, but how do you navigate through that? And or how do you pull someone up that's been under eating for so long, that has the scarcity of eating now and thinking that they're going to gain weight, and even in the first week or two maybe they do gain weight, but they need to get to a normalcy to be able to pull them down? How you navigate through that conversation before we transition into some of the resets that you do as well?
So first things first, everybody think about like how much does somebody weigh and how much they need to lose. So let's say Troy's talking about somebody 50 to 70% body fat. That would typically mean that it's probably somebody who is much heavier. Doesn't always mean that though. But in this scenario, we're going to use that say somebody is probably, let's say 275 plus,
Yep.
250
I
plus.
was
That's
going
what
to
we're
say
going to
three
say,
three to 315, something
right?
like
We're
that,
going to
but
say
yeah.
this is somebody who at least 250 plus, okay? And the catch is this. Understand that when you look at, you see things that say, hey, standard American diet should be 2000 calories. First of all, somebody at that weight, and if they're constantly gaining, they're not burning that. Their resting metabolic rate isn't anywhere near that because they're not using it, which is why you can find people who are much larger and they say they don't eat much. and they're not losing weight and they're gaining it because their resting metabolic rate is so low. So when you have to think about once you get somebody
Mm,
who is, let's say, 250, 275 plus, 300 plus, you can see somebody 300 plus on even like 1600 calories start to lose weight just because we've got them in a deficit and they don't need 2000 calories even though they're in a size body that you would think they need those calories just to sustain organ function. Why? Because they have a fat storage that is live and their body can use that extra fat storage. So you will find that they don't typically get hungry.
mm-hmm.
They will never, even in the low
Mm,
calories, they typically won't feel like, and especially when we rearrange their food, your protein, your fiber, your right type of carbohydrates, and a normal amount of moderate fat. Once you rearrange how they eat, they will never be hungry, even on low calories, because they have too much stored fat as energy that needs to be used, which is how you can see somebody who weighs 300 pounds lose like 20 pounds in a month and a half or, a month because you've pulled off all that extra water. You're
yeah.
pulling off all the all the inflammation. You've moved their calories down. Plus, they're starting to move their body. So once we increase their resting metabolic rate, you can see them lose a lot of weight. So now let's fast forward to, let's say, a person. I always say there's different weight brackets. Now let's come back down to, let's say, 225 on
Mm-hmm.
down. That still has that same 40 plus 50% body fat. That's a different type of person now.
Mm,
That's not that same size person. So you're going to see things go slower and you have to be more intentional because 225, you're not going to drop weight like that. Just boom, 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 boom. You're
that's
not.
not even enough weight to just
You're
like
not
drop
you're not
like
going to
that.
drop it like
Unless
that.
you're
So
like
now,
4'11" or something and
unless you're
225.
super short,
You're yeah, but you're yeah, that body
but
composition, like
even with that, somebody who's super, super short, and let's say they're super short, let's say they're 5'1", that's pretty, 5'1", and they weigh 225, right? Then we got stature problems, then we've got body fat issues, but then you also have metabolic rate issues. Because at that stature, the amount of calories that you need are on the lower end. It is very interesting when people are short, so you have to manage that very hard because of their height, where you can't say, well, we're going to eat this many calories based on their scale weight. No,
mm-hmm.
it's their stature concern.
Yeah.
So you have to really be a lot more diligent and start getting them moving at a different way. So now you can see their weight start to trickle on down, but it's a different approach. And that's why I'm like, it depends on the person. It depends on how much weight we're talking. It depends on the height of the person. Very tall people, there's different things we can do. People who are under 5'2", it's a completely different type of approach because their stature.
Mm-hmm. So
Average height people, we can do things pretty normal.
have you had what would be deemed as your toughest client? Have you had
Yeah.
somebody that really was a challenge?
Absolutely.
Um,
And I will tell you, challenging clients are individuals who have been, and I think if y'all watched our first three segments, some of my most challenging clients are clients who have been chronic dieters for their entire life, number one. But number two is because they don't want to change their mindset. It is a mindset issue for that person because they want to hack their way into better health, better fitness. That is my most challenging type of client because they want to eat the nachos and make them healthy. And they want to do that every day. They want to hack their way into having desserts that are healthy. It's wasted energy and time. And you can't help that person see that you have to learn how to eat normally without trying to push to junk food in hack mode. Learn how to eat real meals normally first.
so what's
See the
your
weight loss.
reset for your people that come in on your program? Is there a reset journey before we get into things? Do you throw, not
Yeah.
throw them into anything, but do you place them right into it? But I know that you give more intangibles than just diet and nutrition. I know that you're
Yeah.
notorious for getting steps in and things like that, or I know sleep is a big one, or there's some other things that you funnel into it? And is there a precursor beforehand? Is it like I need to know that you're willing to do this or X, Y, and
Yeah.
Z?
I absolutely do. And I probably keep trying to refine that, y'all. But I try to make
Uh,
sure number one, especially when, Troy or I are working with similar type of people. that food, number one, I know it sounds silly, but the food log is important because what people think they
Yeah.
do isn't really always what they are doing. And so to help somebody start with the reset, you have to bring awareness, but it can't be forced awareness. It can't be me saying, I know this is what you do. I believe based on what you said. No, I need you to see it. I need you to see it for what it is. And so it's you take the pictures for a week of everything that you just do normally. And I usually will do that before we ever even start, before somebody ever even starts with me. If I think that there's a mindset issue, I want to see your food log. Don't hide anything from me. Don't think there's any judgment. I want to see every single thing that you do so they get a chance to see what the real habits are. Log
Mhm.
your sleep every single day for the next week. I want to see exactly when you go to bed. Log your steps for an entire week. Let me see what you are really doing. And I'm not talking, I tell them, I'm not talking about your steps that are your workout steps, meaning that you went to the gym and you walked around or you went to work. I'm talking about your intentional activity steps. And oftentimes we find our answers right in when them doing that, because then you realize that they actually snack a lot more than they
Mhm.
think, and their caloric intake is actually really high because they have a high fat diet. They just don't know they do.
Mhm.
So their calories are actually really high, and then their activity continues to be very low. But do they go exercise and work out? Yes. But is their
I
actual
feel it.
activity high? No.
I mean, even me yesterday, man. I looked at my step count yesterday, and I only got 4,000 steps in yesterday. And I'm a very active person. Now, I don't know if that was because I didn't have my phone on me all day, but that was
Hmm.
disheartening. So and I had to break it down to, I think me and Monique were talking, or me and Steve, one of the two, and I was like, just think, like, our workout didn't have running in it outside. So yes, you worked out. Don't get it misconstrued because you worked out that you got all of these steps in and that you were moving that much. If you do an hour workout and your workout is confined into a space and you're not doing a lot of steps and movement and or a run before or after, and then you drive home, then you drive to work, and maybe work is from home, or maybe work is sitting at an office, man, you have to
Yeah.
be very intentional about these things.
Yep. Because you
Yeah.
end up doing nothing. I still see it for myself. Like if I don't intentionally, like the last week or two, like when it was super cold, and if I didn't go out, if I'm not going outside, we've worked out at the gym. And so just to give you guys some of you know my schedule, and then some of you who watching this later, you don't. We go to the gym Monday through Friday plus Saturday.
Monday through Saturday,
So,
man. You
and
said Monday through
I'm
Saturday.
not saying that this is something I want you guys to do. I'm just telling you what I might do.
It's real.
So I work out every 6 days a week, full training 6 days a week, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, plus a Friday. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, 3 days of the week that is a second workout, and then we work out a full workout on Friday. Plus Saturday is pretty hefty. Now, all of that, I promise you, even with me eating very sensibly and all of that, it'll keep me healthy. And this is where sometimes I always tell people, like, you have to understand that there's two pieces at work. It'll keep me healthy, but it's not going to change necessarily my scale.
Yeah.
So understand that that's not going to necessarily change the scale so much if I do not get up and do something else in the day. And I'm working from home. You guys see me right now. I'm working from home. And so if I'm not paying attention, steps that are not part of the gym could be 2,000.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's crazy, right?
That's it. And so it's not going to manage I'm not going to be able to manage it that way. So you have to have intentional activity. My body composition might be good for a while if I don't ever, right? If I don't change that other part, I'll be very healthy. But over time,
It's gonna catch up.
it's going to catch up that, you know what, you don't move anywhere, you don't do anything.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Especially the older we get, we got to keep
Hmm.
movement into it. But as far as, so that you have your precursors, but like, as far as the totality, you said, for reset, sleep schedule. Um,
Yes.
what's another one in there? Your sleep schedule is
So
one.
sleep, but then also two for me is also sleep is number one. And two, for me, when it comes to what can be getting in someone's way to reset, is your work schedule against your workout schedule. Because oftentimes people have an idea of, I'm going to do X, but it really doesn't match their work life. And they're struggling with something that they created. I call it self induced
Mm.
anxiety, or this self induced moment of failure because you chose a schedule that you actually couldn't do.
We
Right.
kind
And
of just went
so
through with this too.
yeah, we can't do that. And so what we have to create is a very realistic schedule, because the realistic schedule then also helps us understand, how many calories do we actually need here? Like, what is the right amount of food based on your output? Like, what are we doing? And so it helps us plan meals, knowing what is the activity load? What are you doing? What do we need to be alert for? What do we need to be able to exert
Sure.
energy to do? So that is very much, and then I want to see it calendarized, and not like this fake, like, I think I can do. No, I don't want to know what you think you can do. I want to know, what can you do,
You do.
and if I think that it's too much or it doesn't line up. For example, if somebody says, well, you know what, I want to work out 4 days a week, and I want to do, like, I want to walk, I want to do all this stuff another 6 days. So then we look at their calendar together, and I'm like, okay, so this day you work a long day, 14 hours, but I see that you said you were going to go to the gym that day. Tell me how,
Yeah, I've definitely witnessed you. And it's dope though to
right?
have somebody like you in their space, because I think that we overwhelm ourselves with, especially people that are going from couch to training, is like they feel like they have to go 0 to 100, real quick. And you're like, let's just make some progress. And if it's 2 days, that 2 days is better than the 0 days that you've been going. And we'll
Yep.
gradually get there. And I've learned that most of the time when you go to bat and you swing for a home run, you strike out.
Yep.
Right. But if, as long as you're just trying to get on base, I just need to get the first base first. And then I'll get there gradually, get the second base, take my time. I might go through three batters might come up and get walked or something and strike out, and I'm still just waiting, and I still can make it home. So like we said, the last segment, or week three, was slowing down and allowing things to happen a little bit more clean.
Hmm.
But
Then
so
one of the most important aspects is understanding, like, somebody's expectation on time.
yeah,
Because I think when you somebody puts time parameters on us, right, then I have to literally say, I have to be clear about this, because putting time constraints is going to hurt you, because
hmm
now you're up against a clock that I'm not up against, because you're expecting your body to work like clockwork on a body that has not worked like clockwork in years.
that clock ain't had no
It's
new
not even,
batteries in it
it
in
clocked but not
years.
been ticking. It's not ticking. And so it's like, no, we have to look at other ways to assess results that are not time based. Yes, we may say, well, this is the amount of time we're going to work together, but here are the results that we would like to accomplish. But it doesn't necessarily mean, hey, my scale is going to change by this, because that there's so many levers that go into that. And it also means that you'd have to be tip top 100% every single day, and you're
Yeah,
not.
every day. I'm
You're
not.
you're not. And so we have to be very real about what we want and how we're going to get it, without it being so focused on, it has to happen in this amount of time,
Mhm.
and it be only like a one or two measurements for that. That's not real.
All right, so we got one was sleep, two was work life balance,
Yep.
or working out balance. What's number
Calendar.
three?
Absolutely, calendar. And then we've already talked about having realistic expectations, and then the
Mm-hmm.
food. And then, of course, for food, it has to be managed. And I know for a lot of people, right, I pride myself on being able to help people eat in a way that, number one, supports them, but in a way they like.
Mm-hmm.
That you got to have food you like in order to build a routine. However, I tell people all the time, you may not want a rigid routine that you feel like you're on a diet, and that's not what it is. But in order to create habits, you got to have structure. And I think that sometimes people equate rigidity and structure as they're the same thing. Those are not the same things.
Yeah,
But
very different.
structure is the way that it helps you build routines, just like when we want to help a
Systems.
child learn to tie their shoes. They're going to
Systems,
have to
yeah.
do it the same way every single time. When they're going to learn to put on their clothes, you're going to be on them about, hey, I want you to button this way, or how to put on their pants. I want you to zip this way and button, right? Or put on your socks, brush your teeth. I want you to do it like this. And they have to do it like that
Hmm.
every
Every single
single
time.
time.
Yeah.
And that can, and I think that that can be very underrated for people because they feel like they get bored, or that hey, I feel like that's too rigid. That's not rigid. That's how people create routines.
That's how you get better.
Repetition.
Repetition leads into systems. Systems lead into hitting your goals. You don't even have to have a goal. If you just set up healthy systems, you're going to have this
You're
outcome.
gonna
And you're
get it
like,
no matter
damn,
what. It's
I didn't
coming.
realize that every day if I wake up at 4:30 and I take my dog for an hour walk, I'm going to end up getting hungry and eating something nutritional, but then I'm losing weight. I'm drinking more water because I'm like, it's just this system. It's this routine that created a system of operations that is going to occur. So, like you said, create a routine that's going to implement a system, and that system will have a great response to it.
Yep, which
So
is
we
how
got,
you build habits for life. And that's the thing when you help people
mhm,
see this is for life, and you must understand that you don't build habits for life in like 2 weeks.
that's a big one, Nini.
It
Like,
doesn't happen like
yeah,
that.
it's just understanding that this is supposed to be, and I know people try to use that, and it's like it's a lifestyle, but just in its basic level, it is about obtaining a a solid foundation for your day-to-day life. Like nothing that I'm saying or that you say is anything that just can't and won't be beneficial. And if you could just find how to put that piece of the puzzle in your day to day, you'll see so much benefit from it that I think the addiction will occur.
Yeah.
It's just people don't sit there enough with the 10,000 piece puzzle and really take their time to find out where that piece goes, because life is about a lot of different pieces and people have a lot of different things that go into their day. But trying to figure out how this one lines up to be one of the most important, if not the most important, because it's you.
Yeah.
And take this time and create these routines. This reset routine is what we're going over, and stick with it. So what's your last few, if you have any?
My last piece is knowing that when you are deciding what it is you want, you have to know that there are two pieces. There is sustainability and things that you're going to do for life that you can still lose weight and be fit and get healthy. But then there's another piece that is purely aesthetics only.
Hmm.
And sometimes you have to understand that I think oftentimes, and I think I said it in our first one, sometimes what people want is the aesthetics
Yeah,
under the framework of sustainability for life. Those are two different aspects because you want the speed of the aesthetics, but you want the approach of sustainability. And understand that those two things don't always line up because speed and sustainability are not really the same pieces.
yeah,
And so you have to know what you want. And so like for somebody like Troy and myself, when we're running transformation programs, that's transformation. We're transforming your mind and your body in an aggressive way, like now. And that's why people have to be ready for that.
yeah.
And then we also have to taper people out of that too. So it just depends on what you're ready for. But if we already know that somebody's in a situation where their life is not set up to be able to handle that type of speed and aggression to transform, then you're not at that level yet. That's why we say there's different levels. You might be at a level one where we are trying to take you to a place that you haven't been before, but it doesn't have to be as aggressive, although challenging. You're going to get challenged. It's going,
Hmm.
but you're not. It's not overly aggressive. Versus the person who I like to say is level three and above, that they're ready for more aggressive, even though they're going to get challenged just the same. So you
Yeah.
have to know like where you sit so that we can create the right program for you. And if you're ready to jump into something that's transformative, you know that that is a slightly more aggressive and you're ready for it.
Yeah, for sure. So like you get structure that adapts you to real life, not just a plan that ignores it when you are working with us. So like this
Hmm.
is going to be something that can completely alter people's lives. And we're live right now, so I'm excited to be able to say that for the program, that not only are we live on this stream right now, but the program, the 12-week transformation program, is up and live. You can check out our website. We'll drop the link here and for the website and everything. But it's just no reason for people to not find some great coaches that are going to be able to catapult them to a better level. And it's really on them, though. You know, we're just a guidance in helping people. But like you said, because we are here to try to help with the mental aspect of it in getting forward. So it's going to be something that is them, it's their own mindset. We're helping to condition and create new routines for people to get to a better space. But here's the truth, man. You can fight it. You can have fight or flight all day and expect your body to transform, but it just isn't if you don't do the right things right now.
Mm-hmm. And you can't keep fighting your body. So if you're ready to stop fighting your body, then Troy's dropping the link. It may be something that you're ready for, to say, I'm ready to transform, because you want both. You want to get to a place where it's sustainable, but you also want to transform your mind and your body
Yeah,
today.
sure. So next week we're going to be talking about mindset and why transformation is the identity shift, not just a diet. Um, and that's because habits follow the identity. You know, habits are going to follow identity, and we appreciate each and every one of you guys that are chiming in. We hope that you guys check out this link that I'm about to drop, and it'll be in the comments so you guys can see exactly the website. But we are here to help you guys. I think you guys hear great information from Nitra, and yeah, we're excited for this right now.
Yep. And then we'll see you next week.
Next Tuesday, y'all. Let's check it out.